Each of us is unique in our own way. However, there are some people out there with talents and features that are simply mind-blowing. While we couldn't possibly present them all in one video, we're going to show you 10 amazing people you won't believe are actually real. Some of them may be shocking, while others are simply inspiring. However, they all exist on the very same planet we do. To keep you up to date with the most amazing people on the planet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you want to be the first to see the latest, turn on your notifications as well. Elisani de Cruz Silva. She might not be as tall as Sultan, but Elisani de Cruz Silva is another incredibly tall person who recently found love. Hailing from Salinopolis, Brazil, Elisani suffers from a form of gigantism caused by a tumor on her pituitary gland. The tumor was removed, but not before she reached an astonishing 6 foot 9 inches in height. Even though she's a model, finding a suitable partner seemed to be a tall order until she met Francinaldo de Silva Carvalho. Her boyfriend may be over a foot shorter than her, as he stands at 5 feet 4 inches tall, but that doesn't seem to matter to the happy couple. And yes, when he proposed, he got down on one knee, even though she had to bend down to kiss him afterwards. Sadly, not everyone is able to see past Elisani's unusual height, as she admits that she left school due to the constant bullying she endured from her peers. Sultan Kosin. There have been many people who've made it into the Guinness Book of World Records for being tall, but the current tallest man in the world is Sultan Kosin. Due to a tumor that is affecting his pituitary gland, he's grown to 8 feet 3 inches tall. Being so tall has been quite the burden for Sultan, who was unable to complete his education due to difficulties stemming from his size. To prevent him from growing even taller, he underwent treatment for his pituitary tumor involving a gamma knife. This means that high-intensity cobalt radiation was used, concentrating the radiation to a small area. By combining this with hormonal medication, Sultan's growth has finally stopped. In addition to his intimidating height, he also holds the record for having the largest hands of any living person, as each one measures 28.5 inches from wrist to middle finger. Noah Wall. Accusing someone of having no brain would be an insult to most people, but it was accurate when applied to Noah Wall. Even if you're not a biology expert, you will likely know that brains are generally considered essential for survival. However, Noah was born with spina bifida and hydrocephalus, which means that his brain was flooded with cerebrospinal fluid. This fluid crushed his delicate brain, leaving it a thin sliver of tissue clinging to his skull. When Noah was born, his brain function was at about 2%. The outlook was grim, but Noah's parents refused to give up on him. Now 4 years old, Noah has continued to shock people as he defies the doctor's predictions regarding his health and development. His brain has developed beyond all expectations, and his family has gone from planning his funeral to planning the start of his school year. Derek Parvasimi. Derek Parvasimi is also an autistic savant. However, he's much more focused on the arts than he is in mathematics. He went blind when he was a baby, and the oxygen deprivation that caused his blindness also affected his brain. He became with a learning disability. While he can't see, he does have the gift of absolute pitch, meaning that he can recreate music that he has heard only once before. He began playing piano at only 2 years old, and let's just say he developed a bit of enthusiasm for the instrument. So much so that when he was touring the Linden Lodge School for the Blind in London, he heard a piano being played and immediately knocked over the person playing it so he could take over. This unfortunate piano player was actually the piano instructor, Adam Ogleford, who luckily was the forgiving sort. Daniel Tammet. At first glance, Daniel Tammet doesn't look unusual. However, appearances can be deceiving. He's actually a mathematical and linguistic genius who can speak 11 languages, has memorized pi to over 22,500 digits, and can perform complex mathematical equations in his head. Daniel is autistic and has savant syndrome, meaning that his mind works in a different way than most people's do. He explains that when he's working on an equation, it's more like he's experiencing the numbers as different shapes. When two shapes change and evolve, a third shape, insert, becomes clear to him. It's estimated that there are under 100 savants like Daniel in the whole world, and many of them are unable to articulate their minds the way Daniel can. He's written several books about his condition, which have been published in over 20 different languages. Gabby Williams. When Gabby Williams was born, doctors immediately knew that something was the matter when her body appeared purpled and lit. After spending time in the neonatal intensive care unit, where doctors noticed a full host of problems, her family was prepared for the worst. Despite much medical testing, doctors couldn't figure out what was the matter with her. Eventually, she stabilized, and her family was overjoyed. However, she failed to develop and grow the way most children do. Her condition is so rare that it doesn't have a name, and it means that she ages much slower than normal people. Although she's 13 years old, she still resembles a toddler and acts like one as well. Needless to say, Gabby's condition has both baffled and fascinated scientists. They believe that by studying her, they may be able to unlock some of the mysteries about how our bodies eat. Sarah Mapelli. Because we're beginning to feel the harsh sting of life without bees, many of us have begun to have an all-new appreciation for those pollinating insects. However, it's safe to say that none of us are quite as dedicated to bees as Sarah Mapelli. Known as the Bee Queen, she claims that her unique way of interacting with bees helps people reconnect with nature. Dancing is a wonderful way to get exercise and entertain a crowd, but it's typically done without wearing a tank top of bees. Bee Queen claims that the bees represent a sense of community and help her convey her message of oneness. She uses a bee pheromone similar to one emitted by queen bees, but much more potent. With a little bit of bee pheromone dabbed on her chest, she's ready to be covered in bees. The sensation of being covered in bees is extremely itchy. Crystal Cantu. For those of us who find any possible excuse to avoid hitting the gym, the story of Crystal Cantu is humbling to say the least. Ever since she was a little girl, Crystal loved being active and competing in sports, especially softball. When she got older, she got into more extreme sports and regularly competed in Tough Mudder and Spartan race challenges. When she wasn't exercising, she was working at her dream job until one day, tragedy struck. Crystal was involved in a car accident that resulted in the amputation of her right arm. At first, she was understandably devastated. She saw all of her dreams and her active lifestyle disappearing as she struggled to adapt to life with one arm. Even while she waited for the ambulance to come for her immediately after her accident, she agonized over missing out on the upcoming CrossFit tournament she'd signed up for. Claudio Vieira de Oliveira. When we think of someone born with a disability, it's common to picture missing limbs or someone who needs to walk with a cane. Having an upside-down head is probably something that most of us had no idea could even happen. Claudio Vieira de Oliveira from Brazil was born with a rare condition called arthrogryposis, which causes his joints to fuse together. His limbs are deformed and he can't move them, and his head is upside down and facing the wrong way. His condition was so startling that when he was born, doctors advised his mother not to waste resources feeding him because he likely wouldn't make it. Thankfully, she didn't listen, and Claudio has come up with ways to compensate for the challenges he faces. Because of the unique shape of his body, he can't use a wheelchair, and instead gets around on his knees. He actually managed to graduate from the State University of Feira de Santana. Lois Gibson. When we watch crime shows on television, the role of the sketch artist is often taken for granted or just glossed over entirely. However, in the real world, many crimes are solved because someone saw a drawing created by a sketch artist and identified a suspect. The drawing is only as good as the artist who created it. And according to the Guinness Book of World Records, Lois Gibson is the world's most successful forensic artist. During her career, her drawings have helped identify 751 criminals. Like most superheroes whose job it is to make sure the bad guy gets caught, Gibson underwent a traumatic experience. When she was 21, she was attacked by a man who would later be convicted of murder. This terrifying experience encouraged Gibson to get into her line of work and use the power of her art for good. Sometimes we like to explore the ocean, the jungle, or the farthest reaches of space looking for new and exciting things. However, sometimes our fellow humans can be just as fascinating and interesting. Before you go, check out some more videos about incredible people right here. Don't forget to like our video and join our notification squad as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.